right. If you've joined in and you're watching, let me know. I'd love to hear from you. I see a few of you are waiting here, so hopefully you're actually watching. You can leave a comment in the YouTube app or online here. If you're watching from my Patreon page, you may not be able to leave a comment here on YouTube, but I'll just know you're there. But yeah, you can comment here on YouTube and I will be able to see you. So, what's up? I see a few of you guys are just joining. It's just hitting 7:30. Got 5 people here so far, but if you're joined in and you're able to watch and you can hear me okay, would love to hear from one of you guys. Leave a comment and we'll start in just a couple minutes. Hope you guys enjoy the saxophone there in the background. Okay, I see 5 of you guys are joining in here. If someone can leave a comment and let me know that it's working all right. Yo, what's up, Kyle? How's it going, man? So today, if you guys saw, the subject is going to be on speed bursts and everything regarding that. And I've had some breakthroughs lately with this, so I figured sharing my point of view and what I've learned lately could be of help. What's up, Dave? Haven't made the last couple months. I had a Thursday night class. Glad you can tune in again. Awesome. Hey, glad you can tune in too. Yeah, the attendance has been kind of sparse lately because people are going through finals and are visiting family. And of course, the holidays are always a difficult time of year. So I was happy to do one today. So we probably have a few people here. Maybe some people don't even have YouTube accounts that are already watching here. But yeah, if you haven't said hello, let me know that you're here. And if there's any questions you guys have, leave a comment and I will go over that. But I'm going to go ahead and start now. Yeah, if anything is unclear, leave a comment. I'm going to prop up my camera a little bit further down so that you can see my right hand easier. There we go. That's better. Looks like someone's peeping through this closet, right? Okay. So what we're going to start with is just the right hand. This is as classical guitarists, this is oftentimes where we're going to be behind. Maybe if you've played from a young age, it may be the other case. But in speed bursts, a lot of times we feel behind in our right hand. Hey, what's up, Austin? Good to see you. So let's start with our right hand. First, what we're going to try to get here is just the feeling that it's possible to play really, really fast in our right hand. And how we're going to start by doing that, and everyone can do this, is by plucking the 2nd string, and you're going to plant your thumb here on the 4th string, although that's not so important, just really that it's anchored somewhere. And then we're going to pluck here on the 1st string, and that's it. We're just going to pluck. Now, when you're plucking, imagine if you were to stop the sound as fast as possible with your M finger. Okay, so it's going to be like this. And you can experiment with even stopping the sound earlier to where it's almost just a click, almost as if your middle finger was touching as like while you plucked. So it'd sound like this. Almost nothing, right? So the progression would go like this, right? So that last one there where it's almost a harmonic, you hear just the articulation rather than this. That's your middle finger already on the string, and then this other one is like hearing like almost the shortest possible sound that you could possibly emit from the string before muting it with your middle finger. So what that sound is basically you playing. If you were able to get every finger going at that speed and replacing each finger going, that would be a really high speed. Your finger is already moving to the string at a very, very fast pace, or at a very high speed. So what we're going to try to do is not get that nasty plucked, like, no tone sound like this, but just a consistent. And what you want, it doesn't matter so much about how long the note is, as long as it's pretty short. But what you want is a consistent sound each time, for you to mute at the exact same time each time. Because otherwise, when you were playing a scale, it might be like, or it just might be really messy when you're just trying to go like this, right? So try to keep it consistent every time. It should feel like a motion. Instead of you placing your M finger down, it should just feel like this is what I'm doing. Almost like if you were to go like this. Right? It's almost like a gallop, except don't lift your hand up and down. So probably by now you're pretty comfortable with this. If you're practicing along with me here, you're pretty comfortable with stopping the sound. So the next step, and we'll stop after this one and come back later for a specific reason, but the next step here is after you're so used to muting a string with your M finger, now play that note. And try to get it as consistent as that stop was, right? And when you're doing this stop sound, now imagine you were playing, right? I'm telling you, there's a method here and it works. Get it perfectly consistent. So you don't want it to be like this. Now I'm exaggerating. Probably almost no one sounds like that, but maybe what you sound like is. Those are all too inconsistent. It's got to be exactly the same. And this is a good time while we're still very, very simple. Make sure you're not going like this. I'm exaggerating, but this should not have to lift. See? Stays exactly aligned. By the way, if you're just joining in, let me know you're here in the chat. Let me know if everything's making sense to you. I see there's 7 or 8 of you here now, so say hi. Okay. Now, the next step here, and this will end after this next one, is going to be coming back and muting with your I finger. This is like the start of the burst almost, because maybe no one would call this a burst. No one at least thinks of that as a scale burst, but you might call this a burst, right? But we're going to stop short of that, and we're just going to go I, M, and then mute. So it's going to be... Now, this is going to be the hardest of the ones so far. Every time we add a note, it's going to get increasingly hard to make it exactly consistent, because you're not just thinking about how fast your M finger is playing, then you're coming out to your I, and that's got to be perfectly consistent too for it to sound... right? Watch your wrist. Make sure you're not bouncing there like this. This is what a lot of people are going to tend to do. Don't do that. Now this is where the speed of different people playing along and trying this exercise is going to differ a little bit. Maybe some people aren't able to go. Maybe you're only able to go consistently, which is considerably slower, but that's okay. For the purpose of this exercise, you just want it to be consistent and think much. What it should be is much faster than you're actually able to play when you go do a scale, right? You should think, oh, if I were to continue, it would be or you know, whatever the tempo is. But another thing to pay attention to here, and this is just so that we cover everything while you're practicing this and getting it consistent. Another thing to pay attention to here is to make sure that you're plucking from the same exact spot on your finger every time. Sorry, it's a little bright up here. Maybe you can see, but you don't want to feel like one time when you're like, for instance, when you're coming to stop that string the last time with your I finger, you don't want to feel like one time the string's touching here and then the next time it's touching your tip. It should be the same every time, and generally that's the area where the flesh of your finger meets your fingernail. So in the beginning, admittedly, when I'm trying to get used to this, my point of contact, that's what we call it, the point of contact, it differs a little bit from time to time. And then when I start getting in the flow, it's exactly the same. And that should be your general point of contact for when you're playing anything. Okay? So, let's go back and do this again. And now be really critical. Now that we've talked about these things, be really, really critical. You shouldn't be hitting this high string by accident like it can happen. I'm trying to do it on purpose. I mean, I do it by accident all the time, but maybe you go. You do something like this. Anyways, it should be very consistent. No bouncing, and stop with your eye finger. And if you're feeling of interest, you can go. Now I'm not muting afterwards, I'm just going I am I. Now what you should not be thinking of here is da da da, pluck, pluck, pluck. It should just be one smooth motion, like you're just rolling your fingers, you know, like you're waiting in line for something or you're impatient, that typical thing. That's what it should feel like. It should just feel like this motion that you're doing on the guitar. Okay, Sammy, hey, thanks. I'm glad you think it's good advice. I hope it is. I think it is. Anyways, so now that we've got this down, we're going to add in the left hand because that's not to be forgotten. Sometimes it's kind of odd what we do. We think like, oh, it's my left hand that's behind, and you do all these left hand exercises, and then maybe a week later you have already made your left hand better and your right hand's behind. And sometimes you think your left hand's behind, but it's your right. So this is a good way to keep track of it. This is a very simple scale exercise. We're not talking about playing something from a piece or that's very difficult to analyze, like what's behind and for what reasons, because there could be a variety of reasons one hand's behind when you're playing something complex. But when we're talking about a scale that's just descending chromatically all on one string, it's quite easy to tell, and I'll show you kind of how we start doing this. So we're going to start by placing our fourth finger on the second string, okay, the 12th fret. And if for some reason that's difficult for you to reach to, start anywhere else, it doesn't matter. But just for the sake of being consistent with me, start here on the 12th fret of the B string. And by the way, we're choosing the B string over the E string because on the B string, you have to be a little bit more careful with your right hand and how far it swings so you don't accidentally hit a string above or below it. And if we did it on the first string, you could let your fingers go crazy up here, and maybe you'd play like this, which would be terrible, and your fingers would be super inefficient. But this kind of makes it to where you can't do that. I mean, try to swing your fingers away and still be accurate. It's like, I mean, you have to be so careful. So, anyways, let's continue on with this. What we're going to do is we're just going to place our fourth finger down, and we're going to pluck our I finger. And we're going to do that same thing we were doing before. And we're going to go through the same exact order of operations as we did. So we're going to start with just plucking I and setting M down immediately. Try to notice any movement in your hand that's unnecessary. Make sure your shoulders are relaxed. I'm wearing this shirt right now so that I can show you. If you would notice, if I was doing this, most likely it's going to be over here because we're focused on right hand so much right now. But also where your shoulder's at, right? If your one shoulder comes forward like that, or you can notice this. This is a common thing people do. Or they'll put their elbow way out like that. And all of this type of thing you can feel on your shoulder. So you can just experiment with that. It should be very much like you're just relaxing. I mean, obviously there's a different look to once you raise your arms up to the guitar, but it's not this, right? There's a big problem here. If you're practicing hours and hours a day and you're doing this or this, you're going to develop problems one way or another. And if you don't develop problems, you're just not going to play at the highest capacity. Of course, there's examples of great players that do this crazy stuff, but maybe they could be even greater if they didn't do that from the beginning, but that's obviously the way that they learned, and they were able to make do with it. But we're trying to get as good as possible with the least amount of time, right? We're not trying to take shortcuts, but we're trying to make sure that we stay relaxed and continue enjoying what we do instead of developing injuries or having tons of problems that are preventing our progress. All right, so we're going to do this. And then remember what it felt like to go like this. Sorry, we're not remuting. This should be the same speed when you add in that third finger. 4, 3. By the way, the rhythm doesn't have to be the same. Da-da, da-da. The distance between the notes does. So in that way, a rhythm, right? Da-da, 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 da-da. It can be any distance, but the point is, when you're doing this, you want to be relaxed after you play. You don't want to think, okay, I'm relaxed now. Add tension, add tension. You don't want to think like that, like, oh, I got to keep on doing this for stamina. This is absolutely not for stamina reasons. In no way is this about stamina. This is about speed bursts. Okay. So, and by the way, this is not just applicable with scales or chromatic scales. It's applicable with everything. Arpeggios, I've done that before in my technique classes. So, by the way, if you're not signed up, the link is in my bio on Instagram, and it's patreon.com/Evan Tausch. Or if you just search Patreon space my name, then you'll find it there. And I do these classes every week, usually on a different subject, and then every week, and then added in some sort of general practice routine that is healthy for our techniques. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to continue, like I said here. Then we're going to stop with our I finger, like we did before, right? So we're I am, and then I am, then we're stopping with our I finger. As if we were preparing to play a third note. Okay, now let's go ahead and play that third note. Now don't worry about stopping and just go I am I. Now this might get tricky for your left hand. These are your weaker fingers. And this is an order that you almost never do. You might go 1 to 3 all the time, but you may not, 4 to 2. So it might take you a few tries. You might mute one more than the other. Anyways, this is the way that you go about working this. Now, there's lots of different prohibiting factors in this. Maybe that's just not working for you. So you take it down a hair, just a hair in tempo. And if you're curious about a good article regarding the same type of practice, you should look up Stephen Aron. That's Stephen space Aron, velocity scales. And so it's Stephen Aron velocity scales. Or maybe it's just velocity. Anyways, you'll find it by just Googling this. And he has a great article on speed bursts. And his is that same sort of method, like starting high and then adding in, and then slowly breaking it down when you're adding in more and more notes. And what this does is starts you with complete relaxation. So when we're doing this, we're starting with a high speed but very relaxed. And then when we bring down the speed, we're staying relaxed because we have to as we're adding in more notes. And we are psychologically not going higher in speed. Now this is important because when we start from a very low speed and tell ourselves, okay, we're going to just slowly speed up the metronome over time, what happens is in our head we have this barrier like, okay, I don't think I'm going to be able to go any faster. So when you start approaching that, you get more and more tense and it becomes more and more difficult. You're probably going to squeeze more in the left hand. Your right hand might become really sloppy, and you're also starting from a point of inefficiency. So for instance, if you say, I'm going to start practicing scales really slow, your fingers might, well, for example's sake, I'll start on the first string here. Your fingers might be doing something like this. You might be totally relaxed, but your right hand fingers, or forget it, even your left, could be doing something like this. And you might be saying, well, that's what people do. They start slow and then you build it up. Well, with scales and getting this feeling of speed burst and speed, you don't want to do this because that's starting from a place of inefficiency. So that's why we're starting this other way, and you can read further on his blog about that. And I talk more about it in my technique classes. But this is what you're working on, right? So you're adding in more notes at a time. And it's important to feel fully relaxed before each time attempting it. You don't want to start going, I'm messing up, I'm going to keep on repeating it until I get it right. That's the opposite attitude that you want. You want to break down the basics and start thinking, why can't I get that third note? Can I do this well? Inconsistent? Can I go, ooh, it's my left hand here. That's the type of thing you need to notice. And you go, anyways, I'm not going to go too far into this because we have a limited amount of time. So I'm going to move on to the next step here. One thing that I think is important when starting to add more notes here. So, of course, this exercise eventually goes like this, right? You're 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1. You just move down one fret at a time, right? And of course, the idea is to get this super fast. Once you get down to the bottom, you go open, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. So, right? Okay. So then, all right. The next thing I want to emphasize is important here is when we're doing such motoristic skills like this one with our left hand, sometimes we think it's okay to squeeze really hard. And that actually can be a very prohibiting factor in how fast you can play in the right hand, or in general, how relaxed you feel and therefore sound. When you feel tense, you often sound tense. And that's because of a whole variety of reasons. But what we're going to look at here is how much we're pressing in the left hand. And something I really like to do when I start this exercise, which I've been doing for quite some time now, and on a daily basis for quite some time as well. But we're going to do something like this. So as you can hear, I'm buzzing almost every note, right? Down, I'm actually getting better at it. What we're doing is we're going to practice doing the scale very slow like this, but putting so little pressure that we buzz the note. You see, like this. You can actually see my pinky vibrating from the little pressure that it's putting in. See this? So if it takes you going that slow and repeating the notes, that's fine, but thumb should be hardly squeezing on the back of the neck. On the 7th fret, 6, 5, 4, 6, 5, 4, 3. And then open, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to do legato, but every note buzzing. It's actually quite hard. You might think that this is easy because you're like, oh, I'm not applying as much pressure as I need, therefore it should be easier. But it's not the case at all. It's quite the opposite. Not the opposite, but oftentimes you're still going to be pressing way too hard when you're doing this exercise, even slowly. So, or even when you're attempting to play light. Now already, imagine, keep on doing this by the way, even though I'm talking, keep on doing this exercise. It's just difficult for me to focus on so many things and talk exactly about the point that I'm trying to make. As you're doing this, so keep on doing it. As you're doing this, you should realize that your right hand feels a little bit more free and relaxed. That's assuming you were a little bit tense or over squeezing before, which most likely you were. This is something that I do all the time to make sure that I'm not over squeezing, including in my pieces. I'll go through it. And the moment that you get to a spot where it's hard to make that buzzing sound, it means you're squeezing too much there. So for instance, I just got here, and it was difficult to make this chord buzz the first time. So I know that's a spot where I over squeeze, and certainly I'm right. Anyways, that's just to further prove my point. Sounds terrible. Anyone that's listening to you practices thinks, wow, this guy's terrible, right? Especially if you're going through a piece. Maybe it's luck that they draw. I've been done this one in a while, but right? Someone's listening to your practice and you're buzzing through every note. You sound terrible, but you get this feeling of really just barely touching the fretboard. And that helps so much. And it'll help so much in the scale exercise. It'll let your fingers move a lot freer. So let's do that a little bit more. And by the way, sorry, I'm talking so fast here. If you guys are understanding this and you're playing along, or at least if you're enjoying watching this video, leave a comment here in the YouTube chat or send me a message afterwards or leave a like on this video. It will encourage me to keep on doing these. And also, if there's something you're confused about, please let me know. I will do my best to explain. Thanks for the like, I saw that. All right, so let's go back to this. We're going to start on the 12th fret, and we're just going to go this fast. Dum, da, da, da. Each one of these is a quarter note, right? Okay, we're going to pluck, and we're going to buzz every note. Sorry, I did not see this. Hey, awesome. Great, Kyle. Thanks for leaving a comment there. 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4. Oh, sorry, that's open. 1, 2, 3. So you can experiment doing staccato as well, but make sure you can still hear that buzzing. Hear this? This is one of those things, you know, you see someone do a crazy guitar trick for the first time. This is the type of things that you can impress your guitar playing friends with by being able to play everything buzzed. That's something that it's not just a gimmicky trick. It's something that's so useful, improves so much about your relaxation if you can play through a piece completely buzzing, or at least small sections of the piece that are difficult. It just proves that you have control of your left hand. And oftentimes when this exercise gets hard, our left hand's like, okay, come on, let's go, like this, and it's pulling on the neck. That pushes this side of the guitar away. Think about that. Like, try pulling here. You'll feel the guitar wanting to move this direction, which in turn, this is kind of complicated, I get it, but when you pull like this, the guitar wants to come this way, so how do you stop the guitar from lifting off of your body like that? You press down on it with your arm. So now you've got this tension stemming from your shoulder, pressing on the guitar. You see this? Like this? Now your hand, try pressing on your guitar with your right arm, like kind of decently hard, and then plucking at the same speed as before, inconsistently. It's very hard. And then when you relax again, you're like, oh, okay, never mind, it's quite easy. So this is how left hand can translate real quick to right hand, not to mention the fact that your left hand's greatly inhibited. Okay, moving on. Let's see. So we're going to do this this right hand alone one more time. Going, you can start again from this if you'd like. Time to reanalyze where you're muting the string at. The same spot that you mute the string at is where the same spot that you mute the string at should be also the same spot that you're going to articulate from. You don't want to like mute like right here in the flesh of your finger, and then when you actually go to add in that second note, da-da, da-da, you don't want it to be now, oh, okay, now I'm going to adjust my point of attack. No, it should be muting right at the point where you're going to pluck again. Like I said, it should feel like a motion, and then start doing this where you mute again with your high finger. And try to get it super consistent. I'm paying special attention when I'm not talking. Third one. Doesn't have to be dig it up, dig it up, dig it up, dig it up. You can just take a break in between. So see, these are actually kind of inconsistent. So I've actually got it fairly consistent, but it takes some focus. And it also takes you letting go of this idea that you need to control these fingers like da da da. It's just this idea of da 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 da. It's just a single little motion that you're just letting go, that you're just firing off. Okay, so what am I going to do now in this exercise? Now, great, if all of a sudden you can rip through this scale, you won. Congratulations. No. But something I do now is I'll separate the fingers, and I'll do like 4-2, 4-2, 4-2. The same chromatic exercise except with just our 4th and 3rd, sorry, 4-2, 4-3, just our pinky and ring finger. So I'll start again 12. Ready? And 4-3. So I'm just speeding up there at the end so you get the point, but so this is something I do at a faster speed too, right? Okay, now something else to do, very important, a very under-practiced thing here is not just doing I am, but also doing am I, okay? So if you're consistent like this, try to make sure you're also am I. You're probably now trying this, you're like, damn it, why is it not the same, right? It may not be for a second, it may not be for a while, depending on what your level's like. But now try going for like PI, or sorry, am I, am I, am I. So try to get it decent. Stay relaxed. Buzz the note if you have to. By the way, if you haven't said hi yet and you're watching, let me know. Drop a message, drop a little comment in the box here. And if you're interested in these classes, please check out my Patreon page at patreon.com/Evan Tauscher, and you can sign up for these weekly classes, and all of these live streams are available for you to re-watch on the website if you sign up. So they're all unlisted links typically. This one is public. So anyways, now what we're going to do is we are going to do this with other fingers. So 3-2, 3-2. So start ready and 3-2, 3-2, 3-2. And if you want to switch in the middle of it to am I, or every few notes, that's a good idea to make sure you can stay consistent. It's not a big adjustment, so you can switch mid-scale. Also, there's benefits of switching mid-scale. That kind of shows you if there's one is slower than the other, or less consistent. Okay, now let's do 2-1. This should be the easiest. Actually, sometimes people, let me know, by the way, leave a comment after you try this one. Is 3-2 easier, or is 2-1 easier? There's reason to believe that 3-2 should be easier because it's more balanced. Than 2-1, you're kind of dealing with this side of the hand, even though your hand shouldn't look like this. 3-2 is very balanced. So even arguably 4-1 is so balanced that should be very good if you were to go 4-1. But I just doubt that's the case with that one, just because it involves your 4th finger. So let's do 2-1. Ready? And. like great idea to have a mirror like this. I've said this before, but just a dusty old mirror. That will work great for watching. See, I have it set up right here so that I can see my right hand very, very clearly. On YouTube here, I can watch and see my right hand, so I don't need the mirror, but... Well, so what's easier for you guys? Martin says the gap between 2 to 3 on the lower frets is less comfortable. Oh, that's interesting. On the lower frets. Or you mean this way, lower, I imagine, right? Towards the headstock. I can see that. Probably a good idea to practice that all buzz, like what you're doing with the four fingers. I bet you can buzz them. See if there's a difference. Like, is it harder to buzz lower also? Then that tells you something, you know? It tells you that maybe you should practice it. Okay. Anyways, now let's do a combination of this. I really like things like this. 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 1. So, ready? And 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2, 3, 1. Now let's go 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3, 2, 4, starting on the first fret. Ready? And 1, 3, 2, 4, 1, 3. Listen to the consistency and the space between notes. You should be totally relaxed doing this. Go slower if you want. Let's just go slower for the sake of matching everyone's needs here, but 4, 2, 3, 1, 4, 2. Okay, now a little faster. We're gonna go da 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 da. Ready? And. Ready? And. 1, 3, 2, 4. 1, 3, 2, 4. Okay, this kind of thing is building up this independence between the fingers, because otherwise, say you're already ripping in the right hand, you can go crazy fast, okay? That may be the case, but then when you actually go to apply 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, like in Martin's case, maybe his 3, 2 has more of a gap in between it on the lower fret. So what happens is you have no idea what's going on. Notes are passing by way too fast for you to notice that, oh, 3 and 2 have a bigger gap than 4 and 3 or than 2 and 1. It's just too hard. It'll sound something like it'll just sound like a mess, right? It's really hard to emulate this, but like it'll be very hard to distinguish what the issue is, and that's why we're isolating it here. Now, another great way to do this, we're adding in some more notes rather than just plucking 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. We're going to do 4, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2, 4, 3, 2. Going down, do you hold the 3 before releasing 4? So Martin's asking, by the way, guys, I don't know if you can see this in the replay. So I was going to be sure to read it. Going down, do you hold the 3 before releasing 4 or kind of jump from 4 to 3? Do I hold the 3? Sorry, I have to read this again. I have to touch the screen for the chat to come up. Going down, do you hold the 3 before releasing 4 or kind of jump from 4 to 3? Do you hold the 3 before releasing 4? Going down. I think you mean like this. I think you mean when you're going this, like downwards, like ascending, right? Ascending in notes, but downwards on the neck. If that's the case, good question. I don't release the third. When I say release, I release the pressure. I don't release the finger from the fret. It's an important distinction to make. When you go like this, I'm releasing the pressure from the finger. Actually, if you look really closely, here, I'll try to get close so you can see what this looks like. Scooting forward in my rolling chair here. Okay, it looks like this. Oh, actually, this will be better. Oh, you meant the first way. Okay, well, I'll finish explaining this real quick. You see how my finger just gets loose and almost does a little bit of this? Like, it's unsure where it's going. The weight's coming off. I'm intentionally, if I was keeping that finger down, it would look like this instead of... Okay, so Martin, the other way actually, 4-3. Oh, you're meaning like this. Like, do I go like this and then replace the finger? You know what, Martin, that's a great question. Because if you were trying to do exactly that, it might look like this. Sorry, let me go to here so it's easily explained. It might look like this. You would maybe look like... It would look very jumpy. And we don't want to do that because when we're playing a scale on a piece, I mean, we got to think about the practical application, right? When we're playing a scale, we don't want it to look. And also, when you do that kind of jump, it musically makes an impact too. You jump here, same sort of thing. Remember, this pushes out, your hand goes in, and it plays. So it's going to make a sound when you do this type of thing musically too. Of course, sometimes it's inevitable. So, do I slide the 3? Yes. So ever so slightly, you could practice doing this, like making sure your hand looks like this as you descend down the neck. Actually, no. I don't slide the 3 along the string. Now I slide my hand and my thumb down the neck, but my third finger lifts off slightly. Ever so slightly though. Because when the fourth finger is pressing down, the string is depressed lower than the normal level. So you can't slide that third finger along. Actually, I suppose you can. But it's adding too much pressure. If you slide that third finger the whole way, that means your third finger is kind of depressing the string down the entire time. Also, you may not have as good of transfer as weight if you were to drag the third finger, because then your fourth finger is kind of doing this action, like back to 3, so 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, instead of 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3, 4, 3. And a way you can kind of test this is if you're moving your first and second finger appropriately, which lots of people kind of end up doing that naturally. You're not going 1, 2, 1, 2. You're not doing this. Or you shouldn't be. You should be going 1, 2 like this. Transferring weight between your first and second finger. Now, I'm not saying going like this, right? But each time your second finger is playing, you see this? Right now, if you can see closely, my first finger is not lifting off the fret. Sorry, off the string. It's just releasing pressure. So if you keep that third finger depressed, then you're going to end up doing this. Or sliding, I mean. Yeah, so I wouldn't call it a jump, it's just sliding along, sorry, not sliding, it's just gliding along with the hand as you descend. So, anyways, back to, or hopefully that helps in some way, or answers your curiosity. That answers my question. Are you transferring weight like that? Generally only practicing for speed bursts. Well, transfer of weight is important in speed bursts. That's like some of the main concept. Also in playing, a lot of the huge limiting thing is people not transferring weights, right? So like if you were to go 1, 2, 3, 4, you're transferring weight. You're not going 1, 2, 3, 4. You're going like this. See, 1, first finger dumps. That's the word that Scott Tennant uses, is dumps tension, right? He actually uses that example in the right hand. He may not talk about that with the left, but yeah, it's dumping tension. Anyways, to finish up explaining how I work on this exercise, we're not going to go through everything here. We're already 44 minutes in. And by the way, if you haven't commented or liked the video or let me know that you're here, that would be great. You guys leave a comment if you haven't already. Or subscribe to my YouTube channel, sign up for the class on Patreon. I would love to see you there. But let me finish explaining this class. It's going to go, or this exercise. We're going to do this, 4 through 2, okay? This might take a second for you to get consistent, but you can break it all the way back down to here. Oh, sorry, let me back up enough so you can see my right hand. But I go like this next. 4 through 2, 4 through 2, 4 through 2, 4 through 2. This makes, if you do this for a little while, your these three fingers start feeling like these three. I'm telling you, you start feeling strong, and when you feel strong and speedy in these three fingers, something really good is starting to happen, because that means you've got a lot more coordination between those fingers, which is so lacking typically. Right? So then I go 4 through 2, or sorry, don't forget to do M, starting with M. So M, I, M, M, I, M. So next, I do 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. So I go 4, 3, 2, 3, 2, 1. And make sure they all sound the same, right? Like 4, 3, 2 sounds the same as 3, 2, 1. Not da da da, or probably more likely da 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 da. It sounds exactly the same. And this might be starting to notice, actually here, I felt the struggle that you were talking about, Martin, which was that it being a little bit more difficult separating between the 3 and the 2 here. So a good time to practice buzz, like we were talking about earlier. So I'm going to do that here. Making some mistakes here, but Stephen, I'm sorry you're sick. I just read your comment there. Feel better, and I hope you help. Sorry, this isn't the most soothing sound for a sickness, but hopefully it helps. So it goes 4 through 2, 3, 2, 1, 4 through 2. And eventually you can go 4 through 2, 3, 2, 1. Sorry, I'm not doing too well here, but. And then and then the opposite going up, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4. And remember, I'm doing this now just kind of to rush through it, but don't go perfectly in time each time. It's not the purpose. The purpose is for the burst, not like it was a written sheet of music. It just needs to feel like you're able to do this with no effort. Just come back to it. Take a breath. Stretch your arms out. Something, So anyways, I go through all of these different combinations, and not to mention these guys, your M and A finger, right? But although I've taken 47, 48 minutes here to explain how this goes, that is not how long it'll take you to actually execute this exercise. I typically spend, when I go through this super thoroughly with all the finger combinations, or at least most of them, I can spend somewhere between 20 and 30 minutes on this. Now, if I was just doing I and M and I did all the combinations with left hand, it might take me 10. And that's including taking little breaks to make sure I'm staying relaxed and etc. So yeah, try this exercise out. The next thing I want to talk about was when you go ahead and start combining all of the elements here, you can start doing something like quarter notes for 3 times and then 1/16. And when you're doing these little quarter notes, or eighth notes, I guess we're doing, when you're doing these, you have to be so relaxed. This is easy. Whatever speed you choose to do them at, you cannot be thinking, it's got to be wow, guitar is easy. Because that's your rest time. 2, 3. And then eventually you start doing da 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 every other. And then you start doing. You start trying to do 2 little bursts of 16th in a row. Another thing you can do to get your coordination going, I do this almost every time, is I do dotted rhythm. So ba-da, da-da, ba-da, ba-da. This is effectively taking the number, just the same actually, it's interesting. You're taking the number of 16th notes in that given burst and dividing it in two. So it's actually, it would take you the same exact amount of time to go through the whole scale as it would if you were to go. So you're going, and then the other way. This one, the first two notes are close together and the last two notes are close together, but not the second and third notes being close. So the other way is, and probably for you, Martin, this one would be better because it really works that the third and second. And most likely, if you can do it really well and consistent both ways, then you can really speed through the scale. But that's a really good way to do it. Maybe you even go. You can be creative, but I want to express all these different ways of working on it because I'll tell you, it's a very frustrating thing when you work on speed bursts on a daily basis and you don't feel like one day is always equivalent to the next. You're not like, maybe I'll work this tonight and I'll get it really fast and feeling great and then think that tomorrow I can get to that level in the same amount of time. It's not always like that when you're just starting because you just don't have your fingers on that consistent of a regimen. So that kind of consistency you have to build over time, and you have to do a million different types of exercises and combinations to get your fingers to really understand what you're doing. But what I tried to express in this way of teaching speed bursts was that it's not just do this exercise and then do this next one and everything's going to be fine. It's like, why are we adding in these fingers? Why are we doing this way? Why is this finger lagging behind? This is the type of analytical thought that you have to have when you're practicing these bursts. If you don't, then you're just going to practice X scales and exercises forever, get more and more tense, and then it'll never be really fast. The same thing applies to your pieces. The same thing applies to your arpeggios. So practice it here when you have the time to focus on a simple descending chromatic scale. Okay, I hope you guys enjoyed this class. We are 52 minutes in. I think I've covered it all. Happy practicing. Send me clips of you playing this. I would love to see that it's working for you guys. Send me a message if you enjoyed this. I hope you guys sign up for my class. Once again, it's patreon.com/EvanTauscher. That's the same way it's spelled here in my YouTube channel. And right after this video, if it's done processing, I will add in a link to that in the description of it. So, yeah, hey, glad you stuck it out with me here, Kyle. Hope you enjoyed. I will talk to you guys later. Have a good night and a happy new year. And a new year filled with some better technical practice. No problem, Martin. Have a good night.